The Samsung Cup preliminary tournament was played from August 19th to August 24th. Well, I realized this on August 25th. Here's my reaction after realizing it.
何故喧闹？
So this week I'll be focusing on a commentary of the best games from this tournament. Today's game is very interesting. It is between the world champion Mi Yuting 9P and a 16-year-old Japanese female professional, Sumire Nakamura, 4-dan professional. Nakamura is a very strong professional who has defeated many female world champions, such as Asami Ueno and Kim Toyeon.
So Mi Yuting is playing as black and Nakamura is playing as white, where Mi Yuting opens up with this formation. So this is one of the most popular Fuseki these days, and I really like it. And by the way, I made a full course on this Fuseki. It's available on my Patreon page. I'll put the link down in the description. But basically, I spend a lot of time crafting this course, and it's about an hour and a half. So I think it's very helpful for people who are in the single digit queue and the Dan level players to go through the course and build a very reliable Fuseki for their tournaments. Okay, white approaches, black attach, and they just played out the most standard Joseki. Next up, we have black goes directly into the 3-3, and there's another very popular Joseki playing out. I'm pretty sure most of my viewers have seen this a million times. So I'll just fast move forward. Black takes, white ataris, black connects, and white capture the stone over here. Now the reason white doesn't want to play a move like this, right? This also captures stone is because later on black has very annoying sente moves on the second line. This would really help out the fight on the bottom side, right? That's why the Joseki move is for you to simply capture the stone. Black ataris, white connects, and black now placed the keima, and white finished the Joseki with a keima over here. A lot of times, even if the ladder works for white, white would not play the ladder. A lot of times, right? Sometimes you would do it, but sometimes, even if the ladder works, because of the fear of a ladder breaker, white would still play the keima over here. Just a small side knowledge. Next up, we have black playing the pincer here. This is a sente against this group, right? If white doesn't pay attention, then black has a very severe follow-up. That is to directly invade. So white attaches, black hanes, white cuts. Black ataris, white cannot give up the stone over here, and then black can just curl stone back. And the reason this is so strong is because white can't hane. Because black cuts, there's a miai of laddering here and laddering over here. So that won't work for white. White likely has to come back, and black squeeze over here. And just from a very intuitive, direct observation, you can see that this is a way better position for black. Next up, black can aim at the keima to attack this group, right? If white tanuki again, then black's follow-up is to play the keima here. It's really threatening this group. But if white spends another move in the center, but this would be too inefficient, and black already has a lot of territory. So the pincer here is a sente against white, and white needs to defend it properly. In the actual game, white peeps into the corner, and that's the textbook move. Black blocks, and now white attaches on the third line. So the idea of this making this exchange is to attach here, right? This is a very deep idea. If black hanes, white will simply pull the stone back, and now black is in a very awkward situation because there's a very obvious weakness. But if black decides to fix it, then this exchange is really nice for white because it forms a lot of over concentration for black. So white is able to secure the territory over here and making sure these two groups are safe, but also later on that white has a kosumi on the outside, right? So white can get out like this. That is why in the actual game, when white attaches, usually black doesn't answer after this exchange. Instead, black decided to invade here. White squeeze black, that's a sente, and next up we have white simply trying to settle here. So here, fighting is not a great option because black jumps out and then hane. This leads to a very complex fight. This is something that I also talked in details about in my full course, right? So the result of this is basically it's going to be a very good fight for black, right? No matter how white responds to this, black has a way to achieve great results. Therefore, in the actual game, white decided to settle and not to have a fight with Nakamura. Okay, so black Ataris, white connects, black Hanes, and white Ataris on top. Black has to connect. We can see that black gained quite a lot of territory. And then these two stones are not very important, and therefore none of the players would spend more moves here. Next up, we have Nakamura playing the Kosumi here. This is a very interesting move. A lot of times we just think about playing the Keima here, but this is a good move. But what white played in the actual game looks a little bit more intuitive, actually, because white is basically saying, I care more about the corner than the side, because I know that my side is very strong thanks to all the stone I have over here. So this is looking for maximum efficiency, right? This would be saying, oh, well, we're trying to make this territory a little bit more solid, but this is also a little bit less efficient than what white played in the actual game. So I find this move to be very interesting. Okay, next up, black jumps down to prevent what we said, like white can do. White can play the second line Kosumi. So here white can, of course, also just play out the corner rebellion. This would be also very huge. The follow-up is that black is going to squeeze, white will Atari and make a tiger's mouth, and then the game just play out like this. And that's, of course, just another game, right? So white chose a different path, which is totally legit. But then black comes back to fix the corner. So you can't get everything and go, right? You get here, but then you have to sacrifice somewhere else. Next up, we have white playing the 2-space extension. I really like this move, right? If you play something like the 2-space low extension, that's a slightly worse understanding of the game, right? Because you're trying to build your top, but then you're playing a move trying to protect the corner. So what white played made a lot of sense, and that's very well played by Nakamura. Next up, we have Mi Yuting finally coming into white's territory, or white's moyo, to start a fight, right? You can't let this thing go out of control. White now pincers from the outside. This looks very interesting. So this move pretty much blocks black from coming towards the top. So it's forcing black to come out, but it's also kind of putting pressure, right? Saying, well, you can come out, but it's not so easy because I placed my stone really high. So this is a very creative move by Nakamura, and I really like it. But of course, if you play anything else like the 2-space pincer, nothing wrong with this kind of move. This is also a legit move. So this is just a personal choice, and I find it really creative. Black blocks. White has to prevent black from making any sort of extension. And now black jumps. White peeps, hoping black would connect here. So this would make black really heavy. So instead of directly connecting, which is playable, in the actual game, Mi Yuting decided to peep into white's corner, testing white, asking white, hey, how do you want to respond to this? In the actual game, white decided to block here, and this is probably the first inaccuracy, or you can say mistake, from Nakamura. So far, everything being really good. But blocking here is a little bit problematic because it doesn't really prevent black from living here. So the idea is pretty much just to disconnect this group from this stone over here. A better move is for white to simply block and making sure at least black cannot leave the corner. The corner it's quite important. White Hanes, black will play the squeeze. When black crawls, then white can Atari. If black attaches, white will Hane and then play a tiger's mouth. This ensures that black can live here because black is missing a move here to live. Therefore, black has to connect. And next up, we can have a Keima here to attack black. So if the game plays out like this would be a 50-50 game where white can use the attack to build on top. And of course, if black plays the tiger's mouth, then white will simply block here, making sure that black doesn't have enough eye space. And black trying to call in here, it's very difficult, right? Because white already has a very nice formation. So this move usually is very bad. You shouldn't play this move most of the time against the 3-3, but in today's case, this actually turns out to be the best move. It just shows you how complex Go is, right? A lot of, yeah, I'd say 99% of the time you shouldn't block here, letting black get in Hane, but today it's just a different case. All right, so in the actual game, white decided to block here, which leaves Aji in the corner where black can try to live. Black now attaches on top, white hanes, black extends, and now white pushes, making sure that these two stones are captured, and black crawls on the third line. So here, white has a great chance to still keep this game equal, but it takes a lot of calculations. So the move to play is for white to actually just kill the corner. If black pushes, white extends, black wedges and push, white cannot rush to take because then black can get out. Therefore, white has to block. When black ataris, white connects. And here, black connects, white ataris, and now we can see that this corner is just dead. Black ataris, white connects, and black ladders the stone right now. So the result of this is that black is able to ladder one stone here, and making sure this group is fine, breaking the territory over here. But white pretty much claimed the entire corner. Next up, white just needs to play a move to prevent black pincering from the right side, making sure the corner is killed. Then white would have a lot of territory to compete against the two corners that black has. So this would be an equal game moving forward, actually. However, in the actual game, Nakamura played another mistake, I would call it, because this move is just not the right shape. Because after black plays the Hane, the shape is very bad for white. White has to extend, and now we can see the over-concentration that these stones are forming, right? Black not only got the corner, but now black can come back and live on the outside. So here, a lot of players would extend, which is a good move. The problem is that Nakamura was worried about black cutting over here. This would be a very annoying move for white, because first we're looking at the wedge Atari. If white connects, then we have a jump on the outside. This is a very nice shape move when you see something like this, right? If white pushes, then we can just Hane. And this just, the fact that white is struggling here with the liberty is always a problem. So that would be a very pleasant way for black to play. So that's basically what Nakamura was very worried about. Therefore, instead of dealing with something awful, she decided to start a fight somewhere else on the board by pincering black's upper corner. Black attaches, white hanes, black extends, and now white jumps on top. Here, probably a slightly better variation is for white to just extend. Black attaches, and now white comes back to protect the territory over here. So if now black cuts, then we can suffer this, right? There's no problem because black already has a stone over here. So either we Atari or we push, then we can see that the fact that black has a stone over here makes this formation a little bit less efficient, and white's three stones will manage to live. So this would be a slightly better position for black if white plays like this. In the actual game, white played a shape move, and black peeps, white connects, and here black decides to play the Hane. This whole idea is a bit inaccurate from Mi Yuting. I think the correct idea here is simply for black just to Atari here and then try to get the wedge Atari. So if white connects, then black simply captures, and we can see that this Panuki is really strong because it completely make white's Moyo vanish, right? And also, of course, this group over here is also feeling the pressure from this Panuki. So if black plays like this would be simply a leading game for black. In the actual game, black peeps, white connects, and black plays the Hane. So locally, this works very well tactically, right? So what happens with Mi Yuting a lot of the times, if there's some, of course he's a world champion and he's a very strong player, but if I was gonna compare him to other world champions, and if I had to point out a slight weakness is the fact that he's a little bit too focused on local reading a lot of the times, right? His calculation is obviously flawless here, right? Because when black turns and then connect, we can see that black has 3 liberties and white only has 2. So this is black kills white. The problem with this variation is that it doesn't give black an advantage, because capturing these 3 stones are not that important actually for this game. What's really important is a move in the center right now. So let's see a few moves ahead. So black in the actual game Ataris, of course white can't respond by connecting here. If white connects, then black plays the tiger's mouth, and this group is connecting with the center group. So white cannot allow that. Therefore, in the actual game, white simply connect. Black captures, so black has a very nice Panuki. And here, white makes a very big mistake by trying to capture the stone here. So here is a great opportunity for Nakamura to take advantage of the slight mistake when it comes to direction of play. The correct move is for white to simply connect in the center. So this move is very important. Not only kills the 2 stones here, but making sure that black can form more eye space, right? This is probably going to become an eye, but that's it, right? So at this point, if black comes back to capture the 3 stones, then white can get a move in the center. And we can see that locally here, who captures who, that's not a big deal, because that's just a matter of points. But when white gets a move in the center, it changes the momentum of the game. Not only the stone is coordinating with all the stones, all the previous investments that white has, but it's also attacking this Panuki. So black only has 1 eye, and therefore black has to run in some way, and white can use this attack to slowly come back into the game. But in the actual game, I think both players were so focused on the local life and death here, right? In the actual game, white Ataris, of course, this ensures that like these 5 stones are killed and your 4 stones are saved, but it's simply not the right time to worry about that, because the center is way more important. All right, next up we have black cutting and extending. White connects and black bumps into white and trying to take more points away from white. White turns, black turns, so this is huge because black manages to capture the stone over here. White now pincers. You can see that this is already very awkward for white at this point, right? After this mistake, the final miss of opportunity to punish black, white played a pincer. So whenever you have to play a pincering move like this, it doesn't feel great, because you're pincering against like a wall. Like this is absolutely rock solid. So this move only builds us the territory, but doesn't really threaten black in any way. So we don't like moves like these because they only achieve one thing. If I was playing white, maybe I will think about just like, trying to kill the corner. But of course at this point it's very difficult. My move isn't necessarily better. I just feel like this move feels very... I'm pretty sure when Nakamura was playing this move, she was feeling very awkward because she knows she's pincering something that she's not supposed to pincer. Okay, next up we have black crawling. White blocks. The peep is a sente, and now black simply lifts the corner like this. It's a very standard way of living the corner. By the way, a very interesting thing just on the side, because we have a little bit more time today, is that if white turns here, locally the life and death is that black needs the Hane and then make a tiger's mouth, and this would be a ko alive. We all know that, right? Black needs to rely on this ko. But a lot of my viewers might be wondering, hey, what happens when black plays, a move like this? So this is actually a very interesting life and death problem I've solved a long time ago, but I still remember that the correct move is for white to jump on the first line, and this would be a clean kill, which is really amazing. You can, at home, if you're interested in life and death, you can check it out. Of course, you kind of need to forget about the weaknesses that white has on the outside. Right, just purely locally, this would be a clean death for white, for black. Very interesting stuff. All right, that's a very side thing. So white pincers, we have this sequence happening. Black lift the corner, so there's a lot of points taken from white, and white decides to start you can't really call this an attack because black is so solid in the center, right? Just trying to build more territory over here. Black now jumps into the center. White attaches. Black honeys. So white is trying to create chaos, but Mi Yuting is such a strong player. Of course, he defends with a double tiger's mouth. White peeps. Black connects, and white now plays the move over here. This is a very nice shape move. With this move, you pretty much sealed this line and formed a lot of territory, and you're also putting pressure on black. Black plays the tiger's mouth. White honeys. And black now comes back to play a few sente here. It's very pleasant for black. And black now plays the tiger's mouth. That's another sente. And now we can see that all of these stones that are white are playing just to capture the 5 stone in the center. Very inefficient. Next up, black turns on top. White honeys, black clamps. And here we can see the strength of Nakamura. Because locally, if you connect, black will simply connect and there's nothing. But what white played is trying to create weaknesses first and then deal with this problem. And let's see what white was able to find. So when black plays the tiger's mouth or the kosumi, white now has a very nice move here, right? So now if black plays this by accident, then white has this aji going on, and then white lifts the corner. And if the game actually plays out like this, then black is kind of in trouble. So black has to be very careful here. Right, but of course this is a joke for someone like Mi Yuting. He is just way too strong, no reading mistakes. And white comes back to peep, black connects. White now starts to attack the center again, but of course this is very difficult because black has a wedge Atari in the center. White connects, black connects, and white honeys is a sente. After the clamp, black comes back with a tiger's mouth to lift the corner. And now white comes back to defend the weakness that white has here. So locally, this looks like white is trying to kill black. But because of white's weaknesses on the outside, this is very difficult. Black plays the triangle, white captures. And now black connects in the center, protecting the eye space. We can see that this eye is not breakable if white tries to kill, right? Which is what a lot of opponents would do, right? When we are leading, our opponent won't let us live, and a lot of time we face a situation like this. So if you want to pause the video and think about how you want to break out as black, go ahead and think about it, because I think it's a really good exercise, right? Because too many times we get killed when we shouldn't, and it's just frustrating. So it's a really great practice. All right, so in this particular case, living is not that hard, right? As long as we remember that we need to counterattack, we need to exploit our opponent's weakness. And we can see that the weaknesses are here. There's so many cutting points. This stone is extremely weak, right? So we shouldn't have a problem. So a lot of combination would work, but black's correct move is probably the Hana here. White Ataris, black connects. So next up, we're trying to push. Therefore, white has to Atari. When black Atari is on the outside, white connects, and now black can use a Tsuji here. That is just a clamp. And now we can see that it's very difficult to block black here, right? If white pulls the stone back, then we can Atari, and this stone is laddered thanks to our clamping stone. If white keeps going and block here, then we can just get ourselves back. And of course, if white cuts the connection, then we can simply pull the stone back, right? So white can get a peep, no problem. But then if white really wants to kill, he has to play this. But then look at how weak this is, right? I think anything would just kind of get yourself back, right? Even a move like this would probably get yourself back. So that just means that black has no problem because white is way too weak on the outside. Not to say, I think at this point, you can also play the Kosumi here, right? Trying to block over here. So there are way too many variations where black can just safely get home or just make two eyes, right? So that's kind of a lesson that we can learn, is that when your opponent is so weak on the outside, you really don't have to worry about life and death. All right, so of course, as a professional player, Nakamura knows that this will never work. Therefore, she comes back to fix all the weakness, and black plays a very solid move, just trying to live the group in the center. So at this point, the game is pretty hopeless for White because White missed the opportunity by capturing the center. So we'll see a few moves. So yeah, it's at this point when Black plays the Kosumi, White starts to threaten the life and death for Black again, and this is a very nice moment for me. So a lot of us would just be like, hey, you know what? Let's live and let's just win it. But look at what me played in the game. In the actual game, Black pushes first, and then Atari, right? So very important before we play the move to try to live, we should try to push White around a little bit and gain as much profit as possible. A very nice habit by professionals. So Black pushes, White blocks, and here Black plays another beautiful move, right? If White tries to break the eye, then of course we can squeeze and cut here. And that's the meaning of this move. But of course, if White tries to fix the weakness, then Black comes back and just live. We can see that this exchange is favorable for Black. The reason it's favorable is because when White tried to seal here, we can get this Atari for free, right? So this Atari would help us out on the outside. In the actual game, White doesn't care anymore. White just comes back and Black jumps in the center. White Hanes, Black comes back. So we can see pretty much everything is settled at this point. And I think Black is about 20 points ahead on the board. And therefore, this is a pretty hopeless game against a world champion. So the game kept going for a while, but eventually Mi Yuting was able to win this game no problem. And overall, I think it was a very high quality game by both players. White has made a few tactical mistakes in the bottom left corner, which made Nakamura a slightly behind toward going into the mid game. But eventually, the losing idea for White is trying to worry too much about the win or loss instead of focusing on the center. So, but anyway, I have deep respect for Nakamura, like a 16-year-old girl going into like the open section fighting against anyone. Just looking, clearly she's not looking, for a win or, trying to win this tournament. Rather, she's here to learn and try to fight the strongest opponent possible. So a lot of courage, a lot of respect. Definitely, I have a lot of respect for her, and I hope you guys enjoy this game. I'll see you guys in the next one.
Nakamura is a four-time professional, and people say that Hikaru is also a 3 to 4 time professional when he became an insei. So, what rank is Hikaru Nakamura?